Hello and welcome to this edition of Group Talk, analyzing notes data without using spreadsheets. You'll be hearing from our hosts, Ravin Kaur, Director of Marketing, and Raja V, Principal Consultant. Without further ado, here's Ravin.
Welcome folks to this webinar on this very interesting topic of how you can analyze notes data without using a spreadsheet. And as Don mentioned, we're trying a 30-minute format for the first time, and we hope that it isn't too rushed, but it basically gives you a good overview of the solution, and then we have enough time to go through any questions that you have. So I'm going to jump straight in. I think there is no doubt that any enterprise that uses Lotus Notes applications extensively exports data to spreadsheets. This is true in our environment too. We have hundreds of notes applications that we use, and we invariably export notes data to spreadsheets when we want to look at it, when we want to, analyze the data, when we want to present the data in a presentation or to management, or anything to do with the data in notes. Very typically, organizations tend to use spreadsheets. Now, here are some of the pros and cons of using a spreadsheet. It's excellent as a quick fix solution, right? You want something, you want it quickly. Nobody needs to teach you how to use a spreadsheet. You put the data in and it's ready to go. It has reasonable visualization capabilities. If you want to create a pivot table, you want to do some charts and stuff to visually enhance the data that you're presenting, it again makes it reasonably easy. But there are some very serious issues, and these are issues that most large enterprises grapple with on a daily basis. The primary issue is basically both data security and data integrity. So in a spreadsheet, I can make a mistake, right? I can be doing something and let's say in a cell edit the data, or hit the keyboard by mistake and delete some data, and I wouldn't even know it, right? And the moment I do that, the integrity of my data becomes questionable. Similarly, spreadsheets are not secure, right? Spreadsheets can be shared or distributed to people that don't need to see the data. It can be easily taken outside the organization and things like that. And that's a big concern for most IT security departments today. The other risks associated with spreadsheets are the fact that you have to create multiple views in order to get the data set up the way you want in a spreadsheet, and that decreases the performance of your database, and the fact that it doesn't allow you to inherit or use any of the native functionality that most notes applications were originally built using. So before we go to the next part, I'd like to ask you guys a quick question. Don, if you can bring up this poll.
All right, everyone should see the poll on their screen. If you take the time to just fill that out real quick, we'd appreciate it. All right, it looks like we've got the majority of you guys have voted. So I'm going to close this and share the results. Looks like we've got the majority of people saying 51% or more. We got 76% at 51 or more.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Don. So I'm going to introduce the solution that we're going to be talking today, and it's called IntelliPrint Analytics. Basically, IntelliPrint Analytics helps transform your notes view, your static notes view, into a completely interactive view that behaves just like a spreadsheet does, and it can do most of what you can do in a spreadsheet, and some stuff that you also cannot do in a spreadsheet that you would normally use a pivot table or some of the function in a spreadsheet to get to. It also enables end users, right, those that are not notes developers, to create their own custom views. And this is done in a way that doesn't write these views to the notes database, so there is no impact to the notes database at all. These views are saved as formats that get invoked when a user clicks on them, and it also enables users to visualize data, pivots just like you would do in a spreadsheet. And here's how it works. So this is like a very high-level snapshot of how IntelliPrint Analytics works. And here you have the business user who comes to his notes applications, and all you do is go to the Actions menu, launch the tool, and as soon as you launch it, you will see the Smart View. The Smart View helps you do a whole bunch of things that I'm going to explain to you in a few minutes. And you can also visualize your data inside that Smart View. And then if you want to save that Smart View, you can save that back to the database. So it's as simple as that. And interestingly, as opposed to a notes view, which can, depending on the number of fields that you have in the view, which can be, as big as 50 to 60% of the size of your master view, Smart Views are typically 1% or less than the size of your notes view. So, Don, can we do the second poll now before we jump into the demo? And the question here is, how many users in your organization use Lotus Notes applications? You have 5 choices, so please pick the one that matches closest with the number of users in your organization.
All right, just giving everyone a chance to cast their vote. All right, looks like the majority have voted, so I'm going to share these results. It looks like we've got a little bit of a mixed bag. 18% are saying 100 or less. 18% are saying 251 to 1,000. 32% 1,001 to 10,000, and 29% 10,001 or more.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Don. So I'm going to jump straight into the demonstration, and give me a minute. I want to share my notes screen. So here you see I have a typical notes application. It has a bunch of fields, and on my left I have a bunch of views. So here are a few typical views, so I can look at my data by order. I can look at it by year, for example, right? Or by, this is a hypothetical company that basically distributes technology products like the ones that you see here. So they have different products within each of these categories, and they basically are distributors, which means they do large numbers of transactions throughout the year. And the company also operates on a global basis, so they have transactions across the world in many countries. So here are typical examples of views. So you can, the last one that I'm looking at here is the by region view, which has the master regions broken down by country. Now I'm going to go to the master view right here, and this has all the fields. This is a bit of a large view which has almost all the fields in the database. And you can see right here inside this view that I have IntelliPrint integrated. So you see this option that says interactive views and analysis. All the user needs to do is go in here, pick one of these, and it will launch the analysis views. Alternatively, I can go to Actions and scroll down and pick the IntelliPrint Analytics option from here. And you can see that it opens up the master view exactly as you saw in the notes view. It looks and feels the same, but you can see that it has elements that are missing in the notes view. So I'm just going to show you how easy it is to replicate some of those notes views using IntelliPrint Analytics, right? So let me, for example, show you how I can replicate the by region view, right? So we had region and then we had countries. So all I do is grab the customer region from here, drag that and drop it into this dark shaded area right here. And I'm going to go grab my customer country, drag that and drop it right next to that. I'm going to go and minimize, and you can see I have now on the top level the regions and then the countries stacked right below them, exactly like you saw in the master view. Right, now I'm going to go grab my revenue field because that is the most important parameter, and as you can see I can drag it from wherever it was and drop it wherever I want, so I brought it right next to the quantity field. Now I'm going to go right click here on this footer region and say show me the sum, and I'm just going to click that and go to format just to make it easier to read and say I want to format it with currency. I don't want my decimal places, so I've knocked them off, and I'm going to expand that a little bit, and there you go. So categorizing my data by any of these fields here, it could be region, it could be country, it could be product name, it could be year, and then viewing or summing data is very, very simple. Right? And then if you expand this, I can also create sums by the next level of categories. Okay? Now, once I've done this, and this is what I want, all I do is go here and save Smart View as, I want to say by region from master, or from master view. And I can choose whom I provide access to, and I say, okay, I'm done. So similarly, we have a few other smart views that have already been created. So here's what the by order smart view looks like, or I can look at my by product smart view, and so on. Okay, let's go back to the by region view that we just created from the master view. All right. Now let me show you what else I can do. Now let's say that, okay, this is good. I can see that, you know, my how my regions are performing. I can see North America leads the other regions at about $36 million. But I am also interested in how many transactions we did during this period, right? All I do is go back here, right click and say, I'd like to count instead of sum, and there you go. We have the number of transactions. Or I'd like to see how many unique transactions or how many customers have we transacted with. I simply use the count distinct option, and you can see how many customers that we have transacted with in this period. I can also see what is the minimum values that we have transacted for. So we've had transactions which are as low as $1,980. And I may also be interested in looking at, you know, what were the biggest transactions we did. And there you can see it looks like we have a package that we've sold across all these regions at just over $500,000, right? And I can also look at the percentage of these transactions as opposed to the entire data. And there you go. So 47% North America, 30% Europe, and 23% in ANZ. Okay. Now, just like a spreadsheet, I'm going to go back to sum. Now, just like a spreadsheet, you can actually either sort or filter any of this data. So, for example, let's say that I am only interested in looking at camcorder sales. So I simply drop the option for me to filter camcorder sales and say, show me only camcorders, and I'm done, right? Or I can pick camcorders and digital cameras, right? Now, I can also use the little search bar that you see right here. So, for example, I have my products, so I have a whole bunch of products as you can see here. So let's say I'm just interested in the XMOS products. So I can go here and type XMOS and hit my enter key, and it filters all my data for XMOS. So here's another interesting thing that I can do. So I can just click this clear everything. I'm just going to go to my master view, and then I'm going to show you how I can group this based on what I'm looking to achieve. So let's say that I'm looking to group my revenue into categories of $50,000. I'm looking to see how many deals and what deals we did from 0 to 50, from 50 to 100, from 100 to 250, and so on. Right? So I'm going to go grab my revenue field, bring it right next to quantity. I'm going to right-click on the column right there and say group by range. I'm going to go to manual here, start from 1, intervals of $50,000. Right? And say OK. Now I'm going to collapse this, and I can sort this in descending order, and there you go. So you can see customers from over $550,000 and customers in the revenue range from $500,000 to $550,000 and so on, all the way down to the lowest transactions. And this is an example of something that you can't do in a spreadsheet. So let me go back to my by region view and show you how easy it is from this view to visualize this data instead of looking at it in this grid. So there are a lot of folks that will be very comfortable, very happy playing around with this grid and doing, very interesting analysis. But there are some folks that, would not be comfortable doing that and, maybe rather look at the chart, right? So creating a chart from this particular spreadsheet view is as easy as going here, dropping down the chart pivot option and selecting the kind of chart that you want. So in this case, I'm going to do a pie chart. That's it. It's as easy as that. Now if you remember, we had region and then we had countries. And if I click on any of these slices, it inherits that categorization and shows it to you as drill down. Right? Now I can go back up again and I can say, okay, now the objective of this exercise was to look at how my different product categories and products are performing within each country. So I can simply go here, grab my product category, drag it and drop it below country in the x-axis, then go pick product name and drag it and drop that below category in the x-axis. Okay, now when I drill down into Europe, I can look at country-wise sales, and then let's say I'm interested in how my categories have performed in Belgium. I click on Belgium. It looks like laptops have outperformed the other products, and I'm interested in seeing why the MP3 player has not performed so well. So what are the products that have been sold there? I click on that, and that gives me the different products in the breakout. Or I may say, okay, good, I'm expecting MP3 players not to sell a lot, or maybe that's a new product category, but I'm interested in diving into detail on the laptop products, right? And this shows me the laptop products that are actually contributing to about half the revenue in Belgium. Now I can always switch back. You can see that this opens up as a chart, so I can always switch back here, back to my main tab. And you can remember that anything that I do here, and once I'm comfortable with what I have, all I have to do is come back up here and pick whatever chart I want, and then it opens that up as another tab. So you can have a grid, and then you can have multiple charts that basically allow you to analyze or look at your data from different perspectives without having to replicate that data sheet or the grid multiple times, right? Once I'm done, I simply go click Save. Now, let's say that I'm in some other view. I can come back to this view at any time, and it retains everything that I did, both my grid and the two charts that I just did. Right. So this is not it. We don't have time to go into details. I want to give you guys a few minutes for questions, but just to give you a quick overview, a couple of other nice things. Right-clicking on the column header gives you a whole bunch of other options. to sort, to you can also add new columns if you have data in other views, and it gives you a lot of flexibility that your typical spreadsheet does not give you. So Don, at this point, I think it makes sense to open it up for questions. So if we have any questions, Raja and I can respond.
Okay, I do have a couple questions in the queue, but before I read those off to you, I just do want to encourage everybody, if you have any questions, please feel free to get those in there, and I'm going to go over as many as we can in the time frame that we have. So the first question that I have in the queue is, can this be implemented, this Excel and chart functionality, in a web application?
Yes, absolutely. So whatever you see happening here inside the Notes client, the exact same thing is available on the web in a browser. So if you have a Domino application, you don't have Notes clients in your organization, you access all your applications via the browser. We have IntelliPrint Analytics for Domino. You install that on the Domino server, and it works exactly the way you see it working inside your Notes client without any differences.
Okay. Next question is, can this product support using a DB2 backend?
I'd like to ask Raja to answer that question.
No, Don. I mean, so this is basically this works on top of Lotus Notes applications. So if you have data in your Lotus Notes views, you can integrate analytics as part of any Lotus Notes application. So this analytics is purely for Lotus Notes apps.
Okay, so I think that would answer this other question, which was, would this work with an Xpages application? That's a duplicate question. With these reports, is it possible to export data into a PDF or into Excel itself?
Yes, the answer is yes. So let me go back here to my by region view, and you can simply go to the export option right here. And here are the different options available: PDF, HTML. You can, if you still feel that you prefer to use Excel, you can also export this into an Excel spreadsheet. You can also email right here. Instead of it being a two-step process, export, save, and email, we can make it a one-step process. You click the option that you want, select the email ID from the address book, and it will email this out and distribute it to the users that you want.
Okay, the next question is, what's required for support of this application as far as Notes Domino versions?
We support 6.5 and above. 6.5 all the way up to the current 8.5.3.
Okay, then next question is, I see that there is a synchronized data button. Will this send data back to a database if using it in a web application?
No, what this does is, so as I'm working on the application, so when I go here and grab IntelliPrint Analytics from my Actions menu, when I'm in the database, it basically pulls all the data that this view had at that point in time. So we did that maybe 15 minutes back. So in the last 15 minutes, if I expect the database to have been updated by users, and I want this data that I'm looking at to be current, real time, all I do is go click on that synchronize button. So it basically brings data that has been put into the database or that has been modified, say in the last 15 minutes.
Okay, next question in the queue is, how does this affect security? So is the same Domino security applied to these models to make sure that people are only seeing what they have access to?
Exactly. So that's exactly how it works. So For example, if I am the VP of sales and I have access to global data, this is what I see. So if I am the director of sales for North America, I will only see the North America region. I will not be able to see. So exactly the same way you have defined your ACLs in notes, that's the data that I have permission to view.
Okay, I have a question on licensing and cost. How is this licensed and what is the cost?
This is licensed per client, so depending on the number of users. So this is an end user tool. This is really not a developer tool. So if you have like a couple of thousand end users that work on Notes apps or need to look at data and analyze it, then you'd buy a couple of thousand licenses of the Notes client. We have different models depending on the volume of licenses required. So if you have requirements for a handful of licenses, then you'll have to buy that on the retail price. But if you have large volumes required, then we have enterprise pricing. So we can actually, and the pricing is a little different depending on which geography you are in. So we can have one of the engagement managers in that geography, get back to you with that data. So if you can just drop us a note, we can provide you with pricing information.
Okay, another question is, if you create a smart view, is it available for all users of the database? And if so, how do you restrict those views? Is it only ACL controlled?
Yes. So when you create a smart view, you can actually define who has access to that smart view. So you can say nobody else has access if you select the only me option. You can say everybody has access, or you can say I'd like to give access only to a specific set of users. So you select the custom option, you select your ACL, and then you can go pick, depending on which address book, you can go pick the users that you want to provide access to. And you can define whether they are an author or a reader, in the sense that whether they have the ability to edit that smart view further, or whether they have the ability only to view, they have the ability to play around with it, do whatever they want, everything that we just saw, but they won't have the ability to save their changes back to the database if they are a reader. If they're an author, they have full control over the smart view.
Okay. I got just two more questions, and then I'm going to call it because I know we're close on our time here. First one, is it possible to control the action buttons so that you can restrict what is visible and what you will allow? So the examples they give are like the email, print, synchronization.
Yeah, Raja, if you can take that.
See, one is these options are there available by default, like out of the box analytics product has these options, but depending upon the requirement, I mean, it's definitely possible, but we need to take a business decision depending upon the customer's requirement whether we need to show or hide certain options. But technically it's pretty much possible to show or hide each one of these action items.
I mean, you should remember though that once you customize the product, then updates and upgrades can become a little difficult going forward.
Okay, and then the last question that I have that we'll take care of today is, can you make these reports schedulable so that they're emailed or sent on a regular basis?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I mean, we have an API that's available to export to PDF or Excel. So it's basically scheduling is nothing but scheduling a notes agent, wherein we have the API that we can integrate this analytics report, so that on a scheduled basis, you can export the report automatically, and we can attach it as a part of the notes demo document and send it across to the intended recipients. That is pretty much possible.
Okay, great. I know we're a little bit past our half-hour time frame, so I want to thank everyone for joining us today and these great questions. We really appreciate it. If you have any additional questions that we didn't have time to answer today, we encourage you to reach out to us, email us at info@gbs.com, and we'll do our best to answer any of those questions that you might have.
And that concludes this edition of Group Talk. Thanks for watching. To engage in conversations with us, visit twitter.com/gbsknows. To stay up to date, like us on Facebook at facebook.com/joingbs. And to watch entertaining and informative videos, visit youtube.com/gbsknows. And don't forget, visit our website and send us an email at gbs.com and info@gbs.com. Thanks again.